Okay. So, I want to introduce Jamie, Sharon, I always pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry, Jamie. And Cameron Johnson, they're with us from the Montana Business Attraction Team. And I've asked them to join and kind of speak with everyone about their work bringing businesses to Montana and how we can help them and what we can do in our communities to prepare for business attraction. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on over to you folks. Do you need share screen at all?
I do.
Okay.
Am I good to go?
Just 1 second. Yep. You should be good.
Everybody see that?
No. Nope. Did we hit yes? Okay. Okay.
We good now?
Yeah. Yep. Very good.
Okay, great. So first of all, Tori and Great Northern and the board, thanks. Cameron and I are really excited to be here. It's a great opportunity to just kind of share, what Commerce is doing, and just let you know that, Eastern Montana and your region are always targets for us to try and help whatever we can do, either to support local businesses or bring new businesses in. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that this morning and what we're doing, and hopefully we can just have a dialogue. I'm sure you're going to have some questions about it, and we'll just kind of go from there. And hopefully this will start working. Okay, so and then just, we're not going to read the quote here, but I'm sure you guys have heard the governor talk about his comeback plan, right? He wants to, do what we can to have lower taxes, responsible government in the state, reduce that red tape. And we've talked about it. We know the lieutenant governor's working very hard. And that's an important thing that we share when we're out and see other states. There's just so much red tape that companies that want to open up or start or even just exist and have to deal with. Montana's doing a great job of trying to reduce that. So that's one of those things. But he also says, one of the things that Montana exports are livestock, crops, and kids. And I think this is kind of where the business attraction team really kind of comes into place here to help kind of maybe not export the kids as much and bring in some of those new higher tech jobs, higher paying jobs, kind of help improve, lifestyle in the way for the folks here in Montana. So the business attraction team, and Cameron can correct me if I'm wrong. It's I think coming up on 3 years, just shy of 3 years, just after the governor took over, kind of created this new division. The business attraction team works under the director, Scott Osterman, and these are permanent, full-time positions. They're not tied to an administration. And that's kind of an important thing to know. So as projects are working or if the administration changes out, this team will stay in play to keep on the good work of trying to find, businesses that come into Montana or help support those existing businesses going on. So what's odd, not really odd, but what's unique, and it's funny when I talk to people outside of the state and I tell them I'm in Wisconsin, but work for the state of Montana. Those are strategic decisions. We've got Frederick, who's the manager of the program located on the West Coast in California. We have Cameron, who's on this call. She's kind of the glue for us, and she is in Helena. And then I am in Racine, Wisconsin. And strategically, Racine is right between Milwaukee and Chicago. So food processing, ag, advanced manufacturing, all kind of really applies to businesses and industries that we're really trying to find for the eastern part of Montana. So those are the three of us. I think that, for the most part, Frederick and I kind of split the country up by time zones. I take the central and eastern part, and Frederick takes mountain and central, large area. And then she's got the whole thing, since we just kind of flutter with everything. So, but that is the team. These are the projects that kind of, when we look at projects for Montana, we're just not looking for things that we feel we want to bring into Montana. We want them to fit Montana's landscape, right? So these are just a couple things that are important. Accessible leadership. It's always nice to know that, Director Osterman or any of the directors in any of the departments, either with commerce or labor or revenue, are always available to help with business needs. The governor, if he is available, has made himself available for quick meetings with potential businesses coming in. The conservative business principles, I think in today's society and environment, that's important. Free markets and fiscal responsibility. I mean, the state is doing a great job there. Limited government, lower taxes, less regulation. I'm going to go back to that, red tape thing. And then I think the most important part is that small town values, right? We're not trying to change the landscape of Montana. The businesses that we are looking for are the businesses that you feel will meet the needs of your community. And that's what I'm, so blessed that Tori's been, bought into the program. I enjoy talking with her and the team. When we have projects, we talk through it. We'll ask what works, and then we'll go out and try and, find something that matches that. So this is why these kind of interactions and meetings are super important for us to have with you, especially with the board, to kind of talk about how we can help and kind of promote that and seek those projects that work for your communities. Part of the things that we do is, we work with a lot of different site selectors. I don't know if Tori and her team does. I'm sure that folks will reach out from time to time. But, one of the things we try and look for are smaller to mid-sized projects. We are not out seeking projects that will land, 400, 500 jobs. Do they come across their plate from time to time? They do. And they are challenges, but we certainly will work through them. But we're looking for that 10, 15, 25, new potential opportunity for Montana that would be a pretty easy fit to try and fit into smaller communities. And I know that just recently we were looking at an ammunition manufacturer, which I still think is going to land in eastern Montana. And I appreciate, everybody, Rodney and Tori and team to really kind of present the community. And so those kind of things are super helpful. That's a larger project, but, landing 160 new jobs in an ammunition, industry leads for some great opportunities for folks in that area. The thing that we're hearing from site selectors, and I just want to share this with you, and I just want to let you know how much of a gold mine eastern Montana really is for new opportunity and new development. A lot of the big mega sites that have been out there that you see a lot of states develop have really been, there's really nothing left. Those have all been developed, and, for new potential sites and things like that, they're now looking at rural America. In Montana, as you know, the whole state is really considered rural. But the other bonus here is just really the quality of the people that Montana has and the work values. So it really puts Montana on a map for site selectors looking for these small to medium-sized opportunities to kind of land in Montana. And we kind of try and fit those. So I just want to let you guys know and explain that part of it when it comes to site selectors and some of the synergies that we work with on that. This is just some of our objectives here, and I'll just kind of go over this. Again, we're looking for companies that want to create a starting salary of at least $50,000 and above. Now, when we started the program, that was our base number. I'm sure that when we review our objectives going into 2024, we're probably going to do some adjustments here. But right now, those are the things that, we want to start seeing just from a salary standpoint. The other things, we want to retain and expand existing Montana companies. I can think of a couple, businesses that are looking to have products produced here in the U.S. versus China. So that gives us an opportunity to maybe give another, fab shop or somebody else like that to take on these kind of projects. And we're looking for these things all of the time. So if you know of, and what you can share with us, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, if there's a company in the area that is looking for expansion of some more work or has the capacity to do it, let us know. reach out to us, say, hey, I can take on some more work. This is what my shop's capable of doing. And we certainly can line up, hopefully, some work for you. Again, we look for that entrepreneurial growth, the startups, facilitate development and for existing and future workforce. Again, those high-tech jobs, colleges and our community colleges and universities are doing a great job, but we'd like to have those future jobs available here in Montana. So sometimes I would say, think outside the box. I know that, typically farming and ranching is where Eastern Montana lies, but, could we do drone manufacturing in Eastern Montana? So, sometimes we think about those, but we're looking for those kind of new and existing things. I would say that, hydrogen projects have become very popular. And I believe that Eastern Montana has a huge bullseye on some of those projects, and especially with the tech hub work that some of our other folks at Commerce is doing in conjunction with North Dakota. I think that, puts, again, Montana on the map for something that maybe not have thought of, that would be something that would be a fit in your backyard. So we look for those, and then really just, if we can land, some opportunities that certainly could enhance a community with better paying jobs and actually bring something in that would bring other existing businesses in to support it. We're always looking to do that. So those are really some of the basic things that, we're trying to do here with business attraction. These are some of our target sectors, and I think this pretty much is all encompassing. What we don't really do is we don't look for retail or fast food restaurants, but from time to time we do get those requests, and we certainly do reach out to those companies to see if there are interested parties to maybe look at an area to maybe put up a franchise. I know that Glendive has asked a couple times. We reached out to a few fast food chains, and we're in discussion, but those aren't typically projects we look at, but we certainly will help. But as you can see with this list here, I don't think there's anything that we're missing. And I think all of these things can certainly be an opportunity, especially in Eastern Montana, specifically that northeast corner. And I don't need to go over this, and we use this slide for our site selectors, but I think it's kind of important to know that Montana is doing some great things and starting to kind of move up the map and starting to lead and be in top 10s in a lot of different areas. Again, #1 best place to start a business, top 5 state for business tax climate. I mean, these are all absolutely great things to be sharing. Top 10 for least heavily regulated state. And again, we show these kind of things. And when you see this map down here and you see Montana, I believe that we're even less than 60,000 now. But when we look at states like Illinois, Wisconsin, 162 regulations, Illinois, heavily regulated, high tax state, makes it a very easy discussion for us to have people look at Montana and what we're doing. This is really what we sell, and it's really the people of Montana. And I'm just going to tell you a little backstory. So even though I'm in Racine, Wisconsin, my connection to Montana actually started with when I was in the Coast Guard. I was running the Coast Guard recruiting office out of Fargo, and that's probably a discussion for another day. I'm probably a couple of head scratchers as to why the Coast Guard would have a recruiting office in Fargo, North Dakota. But it was probably one of my best roles and jobs. And my western boundary was Eastern Montana. And it was one of the best places I had for recruiting because of the quality of people. It wasn't just, the kids that we were meeting in high school or some of the community colleges, but it was the parents. And really just, we just hired just the salt of the earth. And I just always remember those experiences. So when I had a chance to work for the state in this role, I knew that the best asset for Montana is its people. And this is the major piece, the gold piece of this treasure state is you folks. So
Jamie, and I'll just go ahead and take credit for being part of that. I was born in Glasgow, so.
Thanks, Cameron. And Montana's a big state, but not a large population. What we don't do is buy deals. We're not like Texas or Florida or California. We do not use taxpayer dollars to buy businesses that come here. But what we do promote is people are moving back to Montana, and that gives businesses an opportunity and access to labor forces. We like to kind of show this. It's kind of more of a visual to say, hey, people aren't leaving Montana, people are coming to Montana, and there's a lot of great things here. And as we tell the story of Montana, we're going to see more and more of that. But again, we're careful. We certainly do not, I think Frederick says it, don't, I think he's even shared this quote, don't, Austin, Texas, don't California my Texas, right? And I think Austin, Texas is probably kind of feeling some of the change with all of the, businesses that have kind of come out of that state and have really changed the landscape of that town. We certainly don't want that to happen to Montana, but we also want to make sure that we're at a conversation to give everyone an opportunity to land here for the right fit. And then the other thing that we do here, and this is where Tori and her team really come into play, is we really give a customized roadmap. So when a business comes to us or is interested into that, we do a deep dive into really what the business is, what they're looking for, and why Montana. We try and kind of pair that up with our objectives to make sure that kind of fits there. And then we map out a very customized site selection visit or relationship with the state. And this is kind of our roadmap. And Tori's been part of it, and Mark's been part of this, and Rodney. We really make sure we align as many people as we can to make the fit perfect, and that business coming in has a chance to see every opportunity within the community, and the community has a chance to also visit with that individual business coming in. So it works kind of both ways. But we really, I think this is what puts us ahead of most states. We really bring this home, and when people leave here, they remember how they were felt and treated here, and we call that our red carpet tour with white glove service, right? We want them to come into a community such as yours and know that they're welcome here, that it's a fit there, and we do everything we can for them to really highlight the community and the assets that the community has to provide. So that's what we're doing in a nutshell, in a very quick discussion or presentation. I know I only had 20 minutes, but I want to leave some time here and give Cameron a chance to say a few things and then just take some questions.
Jamie?
Yeah, and I think it's just really important, Jamie, too, that what he was saying is it's also, we do that tour and we bring them here to see if you guys think they're a fit. We don't just bring a company in and push them on a community. I think it's really important. I'm from a small town. I'm born and raised in Montana. And so I want to make sure too, personally, that this company is going to have a lifelong positive effect on the community. Are you going to be supporting the community? You're not just going to come in here and be a bully. So I just think it's, there's a lot to it. We really take what the community needs and wants and not just let a company just kind of run in. It has to match values for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. So we're ready. Fire away. Questions?
Anybody have any questions? So, I guess coming from just living here, if we have a company that approaches a commissioner or a city council or anything like that, what's the chain of communication? Would you guys all like to be involved in that? Or at what point do we kind of bring you all in? Or if a community is saying, look, we're ready, we really want to try to attract a business here, what's that process kind of look like?
Yeah, so, and it's pretty simple. I think it's just a phone call. to any one of us on the team to, say, hey, we've either got this opportunity, or hey, we'd like to get together and talk about a strategy. These are things that we're thinking of, what's available out there. We certainly can, brainstorm with you to help you in any way possible, to either bring that business in that you've already identified, or go out and find something. A lot of times when we're out at expos, and I think we could do a little bit better job, is just even share, hey, we're going to go to this, expo or conference, and is there anything specifically you'd want us to take a look at? I think those are things that we certainly can offer as well, or even attend with us if you wanted to do that. But really, it's just a phone call. It's not complicated. We are, Tori, you can send us an email, pick up the phone, however you want to do it, and we will respond fairly quickly, and get to work on whatever you request. We're working for you.
Agreed. Yeah, we're definitely a resource for everybody to utilize. We're here to make the connections, like, whatever we can do. One of us can come on site, be a host, whatever you need. That's what we're here for.
Any other questions?
No.
What are some examples, I guess, of other of companies that have come since you guys have kind of started this recruitment effort?
Oh, yeah.
Probably the biggest one would be Hyundai.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I mean, obviously it didn't land in Eastern Montana, but that was specifically the first largest company. I would say the first kind of thing that we did within the program to bring a company into Montana specifically based off this program. And it's a research and development division of Hyundai, and they created several jobs, and high paying jobs over in the Bozeman area. Not everybody's favorite thing to hear, but
we do have a pretty active pipeline, Tori. I think it's a great question. I think that we see a little bit all over the place in a lot of those verticals. We see stuff in the aerospace and defense sector. Obviously, you've seen some of the requests for, energy with, that Black Diamond project that will produce, diesel and fertilizer, and a potential putting a micro plant in. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. I know it's a little bit bigger project, and I think I know we looked at the Sydney area, and I think it's probably still in play, but it's a much larger deal. But it was a ferroalloy company out of the country of Georgia that likes our coal, and we're looking for quartzite, which is the other component of it, but they're very interested in Montana. Now that project will land 400 new jobs, and it's going to take quite some time for that to happen, but that could be a big deal. But we are looking for that. Again, the gun manufacturer, which again I think we eventually landed in Glendive, that'll be 160 new jobs. So yeah, there's a little bit kind of all over the place. I know Frederick's working on some hydrogen stuff. I know I've talked with a few folks on some hydrogen projects. I know there's some renewable energy potential projects over in Great Falls. I think I mentioned the aerospace stuff with some resiliency models for supply chain, and a hypersonic missile for testing and manufacturing outside of Great Falls. So those are just some of the things that are kind of going on. And then, obviously the project kind of grows. The other thing that I would say is we're looking for two companies right now, two fab companies that can help with producing, it's a carry-all cart that kind of goes in the back of a hitch receiver. Right now, that gentleman's going to have it made in China. We're trying to pull that back. And then a kitchen, the same thing kind of goes in the hitch receiver, a kitchen component that's made out of California, that we're looking for a company here in Montana to make that. So those are some of the things that are kind of active right now, and then always growing. And I think we've got a few things on the line out of the gun business. I think we've got
We do. And I think one of the things to stress, and I had mentioned this before in a couple, I don't know, some META things and different events, but people have asked us this question a lot. And, of course, some of it's confidential. And, but the biggest thing is to kind of look at it like, and you guys all in economic development can understand, it's like a marriage, right? Some marriages are shotgun weddings and some take 5 to 10 years before you put a ring on it, right? So like what Jamie was explaining about the pipeline, I think that's really important to keep in mind is that this program or, this division of what we are specifically doing has produced over 700 jobs in the last, 3 years now. So we're getting there. But I think what we're going to really start to see is in the next 3 to 10 years, we're going to start to see all of our hard work and the pipeline coming to fruition it's just going to be, we're getting there. Like all of these deals are kind of starting to come together. And you'll start hearing a lot more announcements in the coming weeks and months. So that's exciting.
And my focus is really Eastern Montana, just so you guys know. Even though the whole state is in play, my I can't talk. I've only had one cup of coffee today. Shame on me. But really, my target is Eastern Montana. I think that it is a treasure. I love being in Eastern Montana, and I think there's just a lot of great opportunity. I think where you guys can help us is just let us know when there is opportunity available or what that is. I think just even knowing when there's vacant buildings available, and I know that there's not many. But, when we know there's inventory, then we know that we've got something that we can take a look at. If somebody comes in at us right away, sometimes we'll get an email message from a site selector and say, hey, I need 10,000 square feet. This is the power requirement. This is the water requirement. They'll give us some specifics. And if we know we've got real estate available, which may not show up on LoopNet or somewhere else that, we have access to, through our commerce webpage. Just knowing, with Tori and her team or any of the other EDCs or CDCs in the state that let us know what's going on, those out-of-pocket listings are very valuable for us.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you joining. Lots more to come, hopefully, and more time working with you guys.
Sounds good. We appreciate everything.
Thanks.
All right, guys, take care.
Oh, we got one more presentation for you all. We have Aaron Pratt online with us. He is with the Economic Development Administration. Hi, Aaron. Thanks for joining. Aaron,
hi, Tori.
At me about the disaster funding available through EDA. I finally got him on one of our meetings, and I know some of the counties that are eligible for that funding are in the room. So I am gonna go ahead and turn it over to you if that's okay, Aaron.
Nope, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation today, Tori. I think this is great timing to kind of talk about this supplemental funding. So I'm Aaron Pratt. I'm the Economic Development Administration Economic Development Representative. I cover the entire state of Montana and Wyoming, and have worked in economic development in Montana for nearly a decade in a variety of roles, working in coal country, Indian country, disaster impacted areas for the previous governor's office. So hopefully bring a broad range of understanding of economic development in the state. So, and I wanted to talk specifically, I've been talking to Tori about this opportunity for a while. We have this disaster supplemental funding that's available. It opened up late April. I talked about it in early June at the Montana Economic Developers Association meeting in Billings. And now we're kind of at the stage where we're helping communities develop good applications for that money. So in sort of dollars and cents, we have $57 million across our 10-state region, which is centered in Denver. So the way my crude math kind of works on this is, $5.7 million per state. But Wyoming and a couple other states didn't have any disasters during the kind of impact period. So hopefully Montana is kind of at the table for, $6 million or more to fund projects in these disaster impacted counties. And as Tori mentioned, counties in your region, so Garfield, McCone, and Roosevelt counties are all eligible for this funding due to a straight line wind disaster from 2021. And that funding is pretty flexible. So I think Tori forwarded around the PowerPoint presentation I did, but I'll kind of talk through some examples of projects that we can do. And it's pretty flexible all the way from sort of planning. I'm talking to communities about, disaster resiliency planning and disaster resiliency strategies. Like, how do we make our economy or our community more resilient to disasters in the future, whether those are like fire, wind, flood, or disasters related to climate change. Like, just how do we put together a plan for our community to be more resilient when these things impact our community, all the way to kind of heavy infrastructure projects, right? To like sewer projects, bridge projects, roads, things that, you think about as sort of heavy construction projects, and where those projects intersect with this, with disasters. Like, how do we make sure our roads and bridges are built to a standard that withstands disasters in the future? And it seems like those disasters are more common and more severe and more costly than they've ever been before. So, making sure our workforce can get where they need to go, making sure our emergency workers have access to, the higher density areas of our community where people live. So the funding can be pretty broadly used. And I'm happy to work through some ideas with you and with Tori in the coming weeks to kind of zero in on a project that might make sense. This funding is available at an 80% grant rate. So we'll pay 80%, and a 20% match would have to come from the community. For tribal areas, we can go up to 100%. So it's pretty highly leveraged grant funding for these projects. So I think it's a really great opportunity. These opportunities don't come around that often for dollars at this kind of high grant rate, and really specifically targeted to just a few communities in our state or a few counties in our state. So wanted to make sure you're aware of it, making sure if you want to take advantage of it, I can help you kind of zero in on a project that makes sense. I can kind of rattle off some examples of some projects. So we can do, construction or upgrading of infrastructure, which I kind of talked about, including broadband, workforce development, sectoral partnerships, cluster acceleration, capitalizing revolving loan funds, infrastructure enhancement to make it more resilient to disaster, procurement of equipment for workforce training programs. So I guess hopefully that gives you a sense. This funding is pretty flexible, right? As long as we can tie it in some way to, hey, we're making our community more resilient. We're making our community more, making the economy more diversified to kind of insulate it from disasters, right? And I think we're seeing that, around Yellowstone, where the flooding impacted communities that are purely tourism focused, right? And if that highly seasonal, highly focused tourism economy gets affected, the whole economy collapses, right? And that's what we're kind of trying to prevent, right? Is where we have all our eggs in one basket in terms of our infrastructure or our economy. And if that comes crashing down for some reason, the whole thing falls apart. So we kind of want to do what we can incrementally to make our economies and communities a little bit more resilient. So that's what this funding is for. The eligible entities, the county can apply. A city can apply, Great Northern can apply, a tribe can apply on its own. So it's typical kind of federal grant structure in that way. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if folks want to follow up with me afterward, I'm happy to do that too. But just wanted to take this opportunity to share this funding resource that's available to you at this time. In terms of deadline, there is no deadline for this funding. It's sort of available till it's gone. And we're just now seeing a few applications come in from across our 10-state Denver region. So we're pretty early stage, but we really want to start developing good ideas if this is something you are interested in. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Do you have any questions?
I do actually, yeah, just a couple, Aaron, you used a couple of terms that I'm not familiar with, forgive my ignorance, but could you tell me what sectoral partnerships and cluster acceleration are, please?
Sure. So sectoral partnership is, how is industry working together with similar industries and working with like higher ed institutions to kind of develop like, the mining sector or manufacturing sector. Like, how do we pull those partnerships together to strengthen like a regional asset or strengthen or develop a regional strength around those sectors? So it's kind of a way to kind of strengthen a community in terms of the things that it's good at, right? Maybe that's agriculture, maybe that's manufacturing, maybe that's extractive industries. So trying to make those partnerships stronger, and sort of off of that, you talked about clusters, and that's another thing that we try to develop in communities. If you think about like Bozeman now has this really developed photonics and optics cluster around companies that build sensors and lasers and optics and those kind of things. So that would be an industry cluster, right? And those cluster partnerships, what we've learned about economic development is these clusters sort of create their own weather in some instances and their own economies. So the ways we want to help develop new clusters, strengthen old clusters, and help identify clusters in the community that maybe aren't evident, right? So there are some communities in Montana, Helena has this tiny cluster around aerospace, right? So there's people that make parts for Boeing or fuselage components, and now there's 2 or 3 companies. And when you have 2 or 3 companies, that helps attract a 4th and 5th company. So anyway, does that answer your question around sectors and clusters?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So a cluster of breweries.
There you go. The malting facility, the brewery, yeah.
That's what you're thinking. I was curious, one of the things that I get asked a lot all the time are bridges and roads. So, how to access this funding, maybe to help improve some of the transportation issues and infrastructure issues that we have in our region. Is that something that we could try to fit into this funding source, or do you think? Oh, you muted yourself, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I can give you a couple examples here of, we had a supplemental similar to this in 2019. And Powder River County got a grant from us for critical infrastructure improvements. What did they do? Let's see. Improving and replacing damaged and deteriorating infrastructure throughout the county. That included bridges and roads. Also, Stillwater County got a grant from us for about $2.5 million for roadway infrastructure improvements to protect businesses from flooding. So yeah, infrastructure, roads and bridges, could be a part of that, right? I think sorry, go ahead, Tori.
Well, one roadblock we came up with in the past when we were trying to propose using EDA for roads and bridges was those roads and bridges weren't serving businesses, they were serving farmers and ranchers that were trying to get to town, and that wasn't eligible, I guess. It didn't didn't quite make it as serving businesses. So, is there a way we can get more creative?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how that's any different. Farmers and ranchers are those are all small businesses, right? I think the key is to be able to document and put a metric behind that. Say, hey, this road serves 25 farmers who need to get supplies and equipment and access to markets and workforce to and from their operation, right? And as long as we can document it, put a metric behind it, then I can support it, right? I can make a case for it. So
any questions from board members or thoughts, ideas?
That was a good question, Mary.
So I see this as maybe, there's 2 or 3 counties in the GNDC region, well, not counting Richland, but, 3, Garfield, McCone, and Roosevelt. So I see this as an opportunity to talk to your disaster emergency services, your DES, and find out what they need. And find out, talk to them and maybe make a plan of putting a proposal together. We don't get the CDA disaster money up here ever, so this is a good opportunity for that.
right, and I think I mentioned this earlier. It doesn't need to be this
Right.
funding is a result of this high wind event, but it doesn't need to be focused on that, right? It can be related to fires or flooding or other disasters that you're likely to face in the future. So you can think a little bit more broadly about it, and I'm happy to kind of vet your ideas and work with you through that process. So I just want to make sure Montana gets as much of this as we can, and that eligible counties are aware of it. And if there's an opportunity to work with you to get some of this, I'm happy to do that. So.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate your time and letting me ask you questions in front of a group of people.
No problem. Anytime. And Tori has my contact info. If anybody wants to have a one-on-one conversation, understand this a little bit better, or talk about some ideas one-on-one, I'm always happy to do that too. So please feel free to reach out.
Hey, Tori, this is Chris.
Yeah,
Hey, I got one. I heard roadways and bridges and that, basing it on infrastructure needs. Would it be eligible for like stormwater and stuff like that, or is it more roads and such?
No, absolutely. I think one of those projects I mentioned, it was sort of stormwater too. Like the culverts were undersized, for draining away these big, rain flood events. So, kind of properly sizing culverts was part of the project too. Absolutely. Yeah, that's
and that would be more county based. I guess my focus is more like city based kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the city, absolutely, the city can apply. Tori's organization can apply on behalf of the city. It can be part of a larger project, like, hey, we're going to, your application can have 3 components to it. Say, hey, we're going to do this resiliency study. We're going to do this infrastructure project, including culverts and drainage and, emergency management, communications, right? Hey, we found out in this last disaster, we weren't able to communicate effectively because we didn't have enough towers or enough radios or something like that. So you can have, multiple components to one application. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Tori. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Happy to
Okay.
have you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah.